Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Yeah, always ready to dig into some D&D goodness.
This one's for all you masterminds out there, the players who love a good dose of political intrigue in their campaigns. You know, those Game of Thrones style plots with scheming nobles and hidden agendas.
Right, all those delicious portrayals and shocking twists.
We're going to be diving into a blog post today called 20 Interesting 5e Political Intrigue Hooks, and
We'll be focusing on how to use those hooks to craft a campaign that's not just exciting, but really plays to the strengths of what we call the learner type of player.
exactly. Because let's face it, there's nothing more frustrating than being a player who loves unraveling mysteries, only to feel like you're drowning in a sea of names and political jargon.
Right. It's about finding that sweet spot where the intrigue feels complex and rewarding, but not overwhelming.
So it doesn't turn into a homework assignment.
Exactly.
The blog gives us 20 hooks to work with, which is awesome. We obviously won't get to all of them today.
Definitely not. But we're going to break down why some of these hooks work so well.
Yeah.
And how you can use those same principles to weave your own intricate plots and twists.
So let's just jump right into it. One of the hooks that immediately grabbed my attention was the mystery of the ghost noble.
Ooh, yeah. That one's a classic for a reason.
Uh-huh.
I mean, who doesn't love a good ghost story, right?
Especially when you mix it with some political intrigue.
Absolutely.
So paint the picture for us. What's the basic premise of this hook?
Okay, so picture this. Decades ago, a powerful noble, shrouded in mystery, died under, shall we say, suspicious circumstances. Fast forward to the present day, and suddenly, people are receiving invitations to a grand feast.
And the invitations are coming from?
The dead noble.
Okay, yeah, that'll get the player's attention.
Right. I mean, it's creepy, it's intriguing, and you know your players aren't going to be able to resist investigating.
Especially a learner type, because this hook throws down a challenge right from the start. Why is this ghost noble throwing feasts? What secrets are they trying to uncover?
And of course, it's never as simple as just a ghost story, right?
Right.
The source suggests tying those supernatural happenings back to the noble's past. Maybe they were betrayed by someone they trusted, or maybe they uncovered a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of power.
And now their ghost is restless, unable to find peace until the truth is revealed.
Exactly. So it's not just about busting ghosts. It's about uncovering a hidden history, navigating political factions.
And potentially righting a wrong that's haunted this kingdom for years.
And that's where those juicy moral dilemmas come in.
Oh, yeah, because what if exposing the truth means shaking the very foundations of the kingdom? Do the players help the ghost, even if it means potentially causing chaos and instability?
It's those tough choices that keep players engaged and make them feel like their decisions have real weight.
Okay, let's switch gears to a hook that's a bit more action-packed. The Caravan Heist Enigma.
Now we're talking. This one just screams high stakes and danger right from the get-go.
So hit us with it. What's going down in this scenario?
All right, so imagine this. A valuable caravan, laden with precious goods, vanishes without a trace. At the same time, a young noble heir disappears as well.
Oh, so it's a 2-for-1 mystery.
Exactly. And rumors are swirling like wildfire through the taverns and marketplaces.
Everyone's pointing fingers, whispering about double crossings and secret plots.
And the source really emphasizes the importance of establishing that who can you trust vibe early on.
Which is crucial in a good political thriller.
Right. Was the caravan master in on the heist? Did someone stage the heir's kidnapping? Or is there a third party pulling the strings from the shadows?
And that's where you, as the DM, can have a ton of fun with your players.
Oh, yeah. Feed them bits and pieces of information, some true, some misleading. Let them chase red herrings and connect the dots themselves.
Because a learner player loves nothing more than piecing together a puzzle.
Especially when they feel like they're uncovering a conspiracy that runs deeper than anyone imagined.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting from a political standpoint. The source suggests that the heist might be a power play by a rival nation.
Oh, absolutely. Suddenly, it's not just about recovering stolen goods and rescuing a kidnapped heir. It's about international relations, espionage, and the very real threat of war.
Which raises the stakes considerably.
And puts the players right in the middle of a powder keg. They're no longer just adventurers. They're diplomats, investigators, spies, trying to avert a full-blown international crisis.
And that sense of agency, that feeling that their choices could determine the fate of nations.
That's what makes a political campaign so compelling, especially for learner players.
You know what I'm really enjoying about these hooks so far?
What's that?
It's how they play with our expectations. Like, we think we're dealing with a straightforward ghost story or a simple heist, and then bam! Suddenly we're caught in this web of political intrigue and international conspiracies.
It's all about those layers, right? And speaking of layers, let's move on to a hook that's ripe with them. A nuptial nightmare.
Okay, the name kind of gives it away, but I'm assuming it's not just about cold feet and a less than ideal wedding cake.
Definitely not. Imagine this. A royal wedding is on the horizon, poised to unite two powerful kingdoms. Everything's set, the guests have arrived, and then boom, the princess is kidnapped.
Oh, classic. It's like something straight out of a fairy tale, but with the potential to throw entire nations into chaos.
Exactly. And the source cleverly suggests adding another layer of intrigue by involving a third nation.
Oh, I like where this is going. So we've got our two kingdoms about to be united, and then this third party enters the picture.
And they might have their own motives. Maybe they're a hostile nation hoping to capitalize on the chaos. Or perhaps there's a faction within one of the kingdoms that sees this wedding as a threat to their power.
So many possibilities. And for a learner player, it's like a giant game of Clue.
Oh, absolutely. Who orchestrated the kidnapping? What are their goals? And how will the player's actions influence the fate of these kingdoms?
It's those big picture questions that really get a learner invested in a campaign.
And we can't forget the moral dilemmas this scenario presents. I mean, what if rescuing the princess means aligning with a group whose values don't quite sit right with the party?
Right. It's not always a clear-cut good versus evil situation.
Exactly. And that's where the real intrigue lies. Do they prioritize the princess's safety, even if it means making a deal with the devil, so to speak?
It's a recipe for some seriously compelling role-playing and some tough decisions.
Absolutely.
You know, before we jump to the last hook, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the importance of morally gray characters in political campaigns. I feel like that's where things get really interesting.
Oh, 100%. Because, let's be real, in a world of political intrigue, black and white morality is about as rare as a unicorn riding a dragon.
Exactly. It's all about those shades of gray.
Right. A character might genuinely believe they're doing what's best for their people, but their methods might be considered ruthless, even cruel.
It's like their heart might be in the right place, but their approach is, shall we say, a bit unorthodox.
Exactly. And those are the characters that create the most compelling conflicts because they challenge the player's perceptions of right and wrong.
It's not as simple as siding with the goody-two-shoes paladin against the evil overlord.
It's about navigating those murky waters where everyone has their own agenda and their own justifications.
Which is way more realistic and way more engaging for players.
Especially learner types who thrive on unraveling those complexities and understanding the motivations behind the character's actions.
Okay, one more hook before we shift gears to the bigger picture. This one's called The Custodians of the Air.
Ah, yes. This one has a lot of potential for suspense and drama.
It seems to tap into that innate desire to protect the innocent, but knowing these hooks, I'm sure there are plenty of twists and turns.
Oh, absolutely. So picture this. The players are tasked with protecting a young heir, a child who's completely unaware of the dangerous games of power swirling around them.
It's a classic protect the VIP scenario, but with some added layers of intrigue.
Exactly. Because the real question is, who poses the true threat to this child?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Is it external forces seeking to seize control?
Possibly. Or is there something even more sinister lurking within the walls of the palace itself?
Ooh, I like it. So it's not just about fending off assassins and thwarting kidnapping attempts. It's about uncovering secrets and rooting out potential threats from within.
And the source, quite cleverly I might add, suggests that the child's own mother, the Duchess, might be a suspect.
Oh, wow. Talk about adding fuel to the fire. Suddenly everyone's a suspect and the players are left trying to separate friend from foe.
And for a learner, that's where the real fun begins. They get to observe the Duchess's behavior, look for inconsistencies in her stories, and try to determine if she's a grieving mother or a cold-hearted manipulator.
It becomes a game of social deduction almost as much as anything else.
Precisely. And that's what makes it so brilliant. The players are constantly guessing, constantly reevaluating their assumptions.
And let's not forget that their decisions in this scenario have real weight to them.
Absolutely. If they misjudge the Duchess and she's innocent, they could irrevocably damage her reputation and potentially harm the child in the process.
And on the flip side, if they trust her blindly and she turns out to be the mastermind behind it all.
Well, let's just say that wouldn't end well for anyone involved, especially the young heir.
It's a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. with the fate of a kingdom hanging in the balance. Okay, so we've talked about some really compelling plot hooks, each with its own twists and turns and moral dilemmas. But let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture. How do you, as a DM, take these individual hooks and weave them into a cohesive and engaging political campaign, especially one that keeps those learner players at the table on the edge of their seats?
Well, it's about creating a world that feels like, one of those really complicated contraptions where every gear and lever is connected, and the slightest push in one place can have massive ripple effects throughout the whole system.
I like that analogy. So it's not just about dropping a cool encounter or a dramatic twist into the campaign.
It's about building a world where those things feel like natural outgrowths of the political landscape.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin?
It all starts with factions, but not just a list of names and vague descriptions. We're talking about groups with real depth, with conflicting goals, different ideologies, even their own unique ways of operating.
Right, because in the real world, politics isn't just about good guys versus bad guys.
Exactly. It's messy, it's complicated, and there are usually way more than two sides to every story.
So give us some examples. What kind of factions might we find in a world ripe for political intrigue?
Well, you've got your classic noble houses, all vying for power and influence. Then you might have powerful merchant guilds, religious orders, maybe even secret societies, pulling strings from the shadows.
Each with their own agendas and their own ideas about how things should be run.
Precisely. And the key is to make those agendas matter, meaning that the player's actions should have a tangible impact on these factions and their goals.
So it's not just about the players versus the big, bad, evil guy.
It's about navigating a web of alliances, rivalries, and shifting power dynamics, where every decision they make can ripple outward and change the course of the campaign.
Hey, I'm starting to see how this all ties together, but how do we, as DMs, encourage that kind of engagement from our players?
Give them choices that matter. Let them broker deals between factions, expose conspiracies, or even play groups against each other. Don't be afraid to let their actions have unintended consequences. Maybe they help one faction gain an advantage, only to realize later that it's come at a terrible cost.
Ooh, I like that, because it reinforces the idea that their choices have real weight and that there are often no easy answers in a world of political intrigue.
Exactly. And to really crank up the intrigue, consider incorporating elements of misinformation and propaganda.
Oh, you mean like fake news and whispered rumors? I can see how that would be right up a learner's alley, trying to separate fact from fiction.
Absolutely. Maybe a seemingly innocuous notice board posting is actually a coded message from a secret society. Or perhaps a bard's entertaining song about a historical event is subtly twisting the narrative to favor a particular faction.
It's like we were saying before, nothing is ever black and white in a world of political intrigue.
Precisely. And that's what makes it so captivating both for the players and for us as DMs. We're not just telling a story, we're creating a living, breathing world full of secrets, betrayals, and shifting alliances.
And then we get to watch as our players navigate that world, making choices that shape its destiny.
And for learner players, who thrive on uncovering those hidden truths and understanding the complexities of the world around them, there's no greater satisfaction than seeing those aha moments when they finally piece everything together.
It's like solving a giant puzzle, but instead of cardboard pieces, you're working with political factions, ancient prophecies, and maybe even a ghost or two.
Exactly. And the best part is, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Every campaign, every world, every story is unique.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of D&D political intrigue, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation?
I think the most important thing is to embrace the complexity. Don't be afraid to make your world messy, to give your characters conflicting motivations, and to let your players make choices that have real, lasting consequences.
And remember, a good political campaign isn't about following a predetermined script. It's about creating a dynamic, reactive world where anything is possible.
So go forth. Embrace the chaos and let those political sparks fly.
And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What are some of your favorite ways to incorporate political intrigue into your D&D campaigns? Share your stories, your triumphs, your most cunning schemes. Until next time, may your campaigns be full of intrigue, adventure, and endless possibilities.